This week's Life Conversations with a Twist. I have Stefanie Lauren here. You are also another podcaster, which I feel like I have a lot of podcasters on my podcast, but this is our community and this is what I love. So welcome to my show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I'm just looking forward to this chat. It's always good chatting with you. So I know it's going to be so good and so juicy.
Like we can go so many directions. So Stephanie and I
Yes.
met through a podcast group, and we've been chatting offline. And then we're finally like, okay, we need to meet. We met. I was just on your podcast, which is Broken Enough podcast, and now you're on mine to chat more about a little bit about your world and what you're passionate about. So yeah, we're gonna dive right in. So tell everyone the listeners where you live, a little bit, kind of about your day-to-day life.
Ooh, fun. So I reside in Southern California, and for anybody that's actually familiar with the area, I would say it's Inland Empire. There's a multitude of cities, and anytime I name off the actual city, people are like, "What is that?" Unless you live around here, so it's just easier to say like I live in the Inland Empire area of Southern California, and if you know, you know. If you don't, it's completely okay. Just know like I'm about an hour from the beach, an hour from the mountains, an hour from the desert, like literally kind of centrally located where at any given day, at any given moment, I could be like, all right, cool, like, hey, let's just go do this. And it's not terribly far away. So,
You're
um,
living like the real California life. Like I meet so many people all over and they're like, "Oh, you live in California and these beautiful beaches." Well, our beaches in Sonoma County are like cold. You can never go swimming in them. It's foggy, it's overcast, but you live in the world of what California is supposed to be.
and it's funny you say that because I'm a person where like I love being like I just something about the beach. I like love being there, but I don't like cold water.
Yeah.
And
Well,
people are
don't
like,
come
oh,
to
it's
Sonoma County.
they were like, oh, it's 70 some odd degrees or whatever. And I'm like, if it's not lukewarm bath water, I have no desire to be in it. I'll walk with my feet kind of thing along like the beach or whatever. But I just love being like, there's something there at the beach. I've kind of like grown up off and on at the beach with family members and stuff like that. Whole other story, or whatever. But like, it just kind of is ingrained in me in a way where it's just so special to me. And I love being there. There's just some sort of deeper connection, just like a serene essence of it. So yeah, anytime I can. I definitely don't mind like driving to the beach. I actually have a thing I'm doing later next week where I'm like, oh yeah, let's go to Newport. Okay. I was like, I don't
Lucky.
even care. Like, I don't, but I hear your area is beautiful though too. So
We'll have to visit each other. I'd much rather
yes,
go down there though.
I'm always up for traveling. But yeah, so I'm Southern California. What else? I'm a multi-passionate individual. That's the way I choose to describe myself. I've been in the corporate world off and on for probably over 20 years, but I'm also have a passion for the entrepreneur side of things. And that's something that's been on my heart for years, ever since even like high school. I had the opportunity to do some sort of like business, what's the word for it? I don't know. It's like a business
Like
something.
business admin, business management.
Um, It was like something like where only two of people from each school got picked, and I was actually lucky enough. And I have no idea how I got picked to this day. I think I have no idea. I'm guessing teachers or something were like, "Oh yeah, da da da," and I was like, "All right, cool." But we have to like go to this local college for a week and do like a whole like literally live there for a week and do some crazy like awesome like just business stuff. So like my brain's always been in business. I shamelessly, humbly say, like, I just have a knack for certain things. Like, I'll be in a conversation with friends, and sometimes something just pops out where I'm like, oh, how about this? Or da da da. So, like, my brain just kind of navigates around that. And it also helps that, like, I've been in different business settings for the last 20 plus years, primarily retail, front end, and also like corporate end, but within the sports industry. So, it just kind of also, I think, satisfies like that adventure side of me.
Mhm.
So, um, now I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I've always had a knack for something like business wise myself, and I'm still navigating what that looks like. Dabbling in the idea of, I want to say virtual assistant, but more so just like some sort of like business consulting, as well as like I'm curious about real estate. Like I know you talked about you're a curious person. I'm also a very curious person, so I love to learn things that like intrigue me, and I'm like, hey, like how can I help? How can I do things? What can information can I just like absorb in and decide what lights me up and follow that? So, um,
I
Yeah, I
think
don't
one
know.
thing that I love and where you and I connect, and my listeners will probably agree, is that we are both multi-passionate people. I mean, I literally,
Yes.
people go, Heather, you do 5,000 things. Like, how do you do it? And it's that curious, like you want to learn because you're like, is this something I want to learn? Is this something that
Yeah.
is going to be like fulfilling for me? Is it something that I'm going to kill it at? Is it, like, so I can't wait to have this conversation because people
Yes.
always ask me, and I'm like, see, I'm not the only crazy person out there that is curious to try all these different things.
Yes, like it's a blessing. I wouldn't say it's a curse, it's a blessing, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you have to learn to like manage your energy and yourself, to know like, okay, am I overexerting myself or am I like just, you know, it's okay to be multi-passionate. That's something I really want people to know. It's okay to be multi-passionate, but there's not a right or a wrong way to do it, but it's really just checking in with yourself of like, okay, I'm okay extending myself to multiple things to explore and see what comes up of it, but also like checking with myself, my energy levels, my mental health. I'm also mental health passionate. That's part of my journey, and just making sure that I feel whole, I feel in alignment with what I'm doing in this moment. And that's okay to change too. Like you might decide one day, like, hey, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. Whether you just don't like it or it's like, hey, you know what? Like my energy is lit up more so in this other direction. That's okay too. You can come back to something else or you can decide, hey, it's not my thing at all. Like I kind of dabbled in it. It wasn't as exciting as I thought. I like this over here. Like it's clearly okay to change. And something I was used to tell myself when I was like just thinking about life and career and stuff like that. And I'm like, wow, like people can have multiple long-term careers in the span of like that working age where people are like, oh, we work to your retired age, 65, 60, whatever it is nowadays. And so you can have a lot of long-term careers. However, you can also have like multiple careers. You can have they don't even have to be long. When I think long, I think like 10 years, but nowadays like 3 and 5 years is also long too for some people. So it's like, okay, like you can do a lot of things and you can test little things while you're doing something else and just decide where you want to go and what you want to do with it. And something that I like to tell myself, I'm like, if I don't try, I don't know what door's going to open or I don't know what door is going to shut. And that helps me decide, is this really for me right now? Or is this for me maybe not at all? Or is this actually for me in some capacity? And I'm still exploring to see what next door opens, what next opportunity opens that continues to align with that path, you know?
hmm One of the things that you had mentioned is energy, and um, I every week I was like, okay, so this day I'm gonna like focus on this part of my business. This day I'm gonna do my podcasting. This day I'm gonna work on this client. This day, like for me, it's like what helps me to kind of like plan out my week. But then there's
Yeah.
some days you just wake up. Well, there's some days you wake up you don't want to do anything,
Yeah.
and then there's some days you're like, especially sometimes with the podcast, I'm like, I don't want to get up. I don't want to have these interviews. You don't have the energy for it. But then it's
Yes.
like, God, when you show up and you actually do the things, I'm like, I'm so glad that I showed up because I wouldn't have had this conversation or I wouldn't have met this person
Yes.
or so it's funny how those things go, but I think it's like listening to yourself. There's some days where I'm like, I am tapped out. I don't want to do anything. Or I've like
Mhm.
exhausted myself all day and I have all these things to do when I get home. And I'm like, you know what? I don't. I want to sit here and do a puzzle or I just want to sit here and do absolutely nothing. And so talk to me a little bit about your process of listening to your energy, listening to your body of like exploring what you're passionate about or leaning into a business or leaning into a podcast or leaning into a bigger vision for yourself.
Yeah. Wow. It just, whew, so much comes through with
I
that.
know.
Um, so like me being, and I'll even like dabble in a little bit of my like personal story. Like mental health has always been really important to me. A quick snippet of that, and we can dive in deeper at any point you would like to, is I've kind of always known that something was like I felt different or I felt off, whatever, for like I can't even tell you how many years it's been like that. I've had the house, I've had the career, I've had the relationship, whether they were happening at the same time or different parts, different seasons of my life. I've had a lot of it, and I still had like this internal something, this internal battle where I'm like, I just feel off. I just feel like something is not aligning, something's not right. I don't really know. And it of course it turns into like, okay, something's wrong with me. Something's not right. I feel broken. I feel like there's something that doesn't line up. How does everybody else do this? So probably about I would say almost 3 years ago now, like just something in my life catapulted where it's like it didn't matter like externally what was happening. A lot of things did happen that were kind of like crumbling in essence, but for me, I don't think it was those specific things. It was more of finally waking up inside and saying, you know what, I don't want to continue to feel like this. Like there has to be something going on. And I'll get to your energy question here in a minute.
Mhm.
Um, but part of it too is I started having physical symptoms. I started having physical symptoms. I had, to be very transparent, I had like this flaky scalp that just appeared out of nowhere. I had this internal, like, my body would be twitching primarily when I would actually finally relax, like to go to sleep or something, or even like when I was watching TV, like my body would start twitching. And it wasn't just like a subtle twitch, it was almost like a like ping pong, not ping pong, pinball machine, where like when you actually do whatever and it goes like all over. That's what it felt like in my body, to even having like this irregular period where I'm like, okay, I keep having more and more symptoms, and it's starting to scare me of like what's coming next because each one's more severe. When I actually went to the doctor, did the whole thing, every time, all they said was, "Oh, it's probably because you're stressed. Oh, it's probably because you're stressed."
Mhm.
And like they're aside from medication, their only other advice was, well, balance out your diet, balance out your exercise. And I want to say there was something else in there. There was like three pillars, and for the life of me, I can't think of a third one at the moment.
Probably
But
hormones, because I feel like that's always.
so that's what it ended up being. And I didn't know
Mhm.
that. And I didn't know that even from my doctors. They ran all this tests, the traditional normal tests, and they're like, okay, you look fine. Everything seems fine. That's all I was getting was that. And I was also offered antidepressants. And I was to be very honest, I was very torn about it. And I was like, I don't really know. Like, yeah, I'm having thoughts, but nothing to the point where I'm like actually going to act on it. But I just feel so dark. I feel so deep, like
Mhm.
almost like nothing's giving. Like, I'm like, okay, like what's happening? What's the point of anything? Um, but with that being said, is I also believe that like for me, I can't take my own life. And that's just being very like transparent. So I never had that extent, but it was more of just that internal deep darkness of, well, I'm here until my time's up. I believe in God. So it's like, okay, until God says I'm done. Um, but here I am, like continuing to wake up every single day, and it's almost more of a misery. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll just keep doing this, keep doing this. Um, so I did opt to try antidepressants. I was very neutral, tried it, and I was like, okay, if anything, maybe it's going to help me balance out a little bit so I can start doing other things. It helped to an extent, but what really ended up helping is after I started that, in the middle of, I was only on antidepressants for maybe about like 9, 10 months before I decided to make the decision to wean off of them because it was never my intentions to be on them full time. My doctor even said, she's like, it's also wasn't her intentions as well. And in the meantime, I was at a women's conference. I've made friends with a girl there, was watching her like podcast and stuff like that. And there was a lady on there who did embodiment work. And I just kind of literally started stalking her on Instagram. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's start talking with her. She had a program, got into that. And I was really started to get into what embodiment was. And the best way that I can describe, because sometimes people are like, well, what the heck is embodiment? The best way I can describe it is just literally learning how to tune into your body.
Mm.
And I used to think I was self-aware until I started doing the work. And I was like, oh, there's more to it. Like, there's actually more that my body is saying to me. And that's where it really kind of like transitioned for me. A lot of it was just like very subtly. A lot of things were happening inside of me. I was doing things, thinking things, where it's like this underneath like coding, internal coding was happening, or I was uncoding these conditions that I believed my entire life that kind of helped me decide like, okay, well, I'm supposed to have this. I'm supposed to do this. Well, society says this versus what do I want? What feels right for me? Um, and that transitions into your question about energy and stuff. Is like instead of looking at I'm expected to do this, I'm expected to be a mother, be a wife, have a house, have a career, all these things. Well, it's like a lot of these things I don't have anymore. A lot of these things, like maybe it's not my time, there's a lot of things that are genuinely out of my control. There's only so much that's within my control. But with that being said, is like, okay, what can I do? What do I actually have the power of? I have the power of how I think. I have the power of what I physically can do within means. Because to be honest with you, just because I can lift my arm doesn't mean like it's a natural reaction and a thing I can do, but it's not always guaranteed. So it's like, okay, within reason, what do I have control over? I have no control over what someone thinks of me. I have no control over what um someone feels, like if they hire me, if they don't, like I have no control over all these things. I have no control if I'm going to get that house or get that job or get that client or get that relationship. I have zero control. I can't just say, oh, I want it, I'm going to have it. Yeah, there's minimal, like tiny, tiny steps that we can take. However, there's still no guarantee. The only guarantee is what I choose to do and how I feel about it. And that's a lot of the internal work that I started doing is how am I feeling? What am I feeling? Um, all centered like kind of in a selfish way, but in a healthy way. Like it became like looking into myself and like putting myself first.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what I do with my energy and stuff. Like I literally have, and I've played around with different stuff from time blocking. I've played around with different things with just different types of like to-do lists and task lists and all this stuff, trying to figure out what worked for me. And I
Hmm.
hear all these stories of like people like, oh wow, it works for me, and they have such success, whatever. So of course I'm trying on different things of what people are doing, and I'm like, it doesn't feel right for me. And there's also times where I've tried the to-do list and then I feel guilty about it. I'm like, oh, I didn't accomplish this today. I'm like, and I'm not actually telling myself I'm a failure, but that deep internal voice that we all kind of have that comes up where it's like, well, you didn't complete this. And there you go again, not doing something, or you're not good because you didn't complete this. Like these subtle things that we don't even realize we're telling ourselves. Like that stuff comes up, even like, okay, I didn't do this, whatever, I didn't mark it off. Like sometimes it's daunting to look at a checklist and be like, cool, I woke up today and I feel like trash. And I have this list that if I don't do it, that's just gonna make me feel more like trash. And it's like, well, that's not fair, like to ourselves. I wouldn't say that to you. I wouldn't say it to like my best friends, but why do we say it to ourselves? And that's a huge thing to even, I hear all the time, but at the same time, it's not until you actually believe it where you go, oh, okay, like someone can sit, you can sit there and like Heather, you could be like, oh, hey, Stephanie, go ahead and try this. And I'm like, all right, sounds great. Because you can see maybe from the outside that something just is gonna work. But until I believe it, until I decide that it's right for me, is when it's actually going to work for me, when it's actually going to take action. So I've gone through different checklists. I've gone through different like to-do lists. And at the moment right now, what seems to be working for me um, is usually on Sunday nights because of how my like I found this really cool like weekly to do like notepad. And I like that it has high priorities, low priorities, follow-ups, a note section, and it has each day with I don't know 8 or 10 little slots, whatever. But it actually kind of looks pretty too. I'm like, okay, this makes me feel good, and that's something too is what makes you feel good that you're gonna look at and enjoy. Don't get me wrong, I've gotten caught up on like, I want something that looks pretty and all this stuff, whatever. And then I'm like, it doesn't work for me. It just
Yeah.
literally happened to align. I'm like browsing Amazon and I was like, hey, that sparked an interest. Let me try it. And that's all my intention was, let me try it. And I got to develop my own little system because there was, when I first got it, I was like, hey, okay, cool. Let me put in like my high priorities, low priorities. Let me put all my stuff that I have for the week. And then let me go ahead and take time and put things in different blocks. It just didn't work. And the reason why for me it didn't work is because I would wake up one day, it wouldn't feel like it, or I wouldn't do something. And then even though I've come a long way and I don't have those initial negative thoughts of, oh, I'm a failure, but it's just like, it just didn't work. It almost exhausted me looking at it. Now, like on Sunday nights, I kind of go through because I start the new page and I actually don't even fill in my priorities first. Like I kind of just sit there for a minute. I just kind of have a quiet moment to myself, maybe put on some music. And I just kind of feel into like and start thinking about like, what do I want for this week? What do I want coming up, in business, in personal life, anything. Like just what are my priorities this week? What do I have that maybe I'm like, okay, hey, like I've been thinking about this for a while and I actually feel like, yeah, you know what? I'm ready to look at that, or I'm ready to do this, or hey, you know what? I haven't talked to so and so. I'm not sure like I want to have a conversation when I want to call them, but like that's on my list this week. So kind of just feel into what feels right for me, like what's coming up and just really listening and paying attention. Like, okay, what is coming up while I'm thinking about this coming week? Do I have like hard set appointments? Whether it's, health appointments or it's other stuff I planned a month in advance or whatever to go meet with a friend or whatever, like what is there? And then what kind of just really just observing with no agenda, with no oh my gosh, that's too much or whatever, but just observing what comes up, what kind of feels like I'm actually like almost ready to start doing. Like as if it wasn't like midnight at night, like, okay, if I had all the time right now, what would I do? Oh, hey, I want to go do this. I want to work on that. So just kind of deciding in that moment of what feels right for me. I kind of just fill out like the Monday and I was like, all right, cool. Tomorrow, Monday feels like this. And I start thinking like, you know what? maybe I haven't really been moving a whole lot the last couple days and my body's aching. You know what? Movement's a priority. I'm going to put that in my priority list. So I know that like as I start doing my stuff each night, because so what ends up turning into is each night before I go to bed, I just take a few minutes. It's not super long. It could be 2 minutes, it could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, like whatever I feel like almost content with. I'm like, okay, I feel good with what has come up for me inside and what I'm listening to and what I feel right about. But each night I kind of do the same thing and I build out the next day. And I'm like, you know what? Today I'm gonna do this. You know what? I'm gonna wake up. I actually don't even have like I'm trying to get into maybe a set time to wake up, but that honestly doesn't always work either.
Ugh,
But it's
lucky.
like, yeah, I'm a little bit in a like privileged situation right now where it's like, okay, I get to decide what time I wake up, but I know what's also healthy for me. Or like, hey, you know what? There's days I have to get up super early because I have things going on. Or there's days where it's like my body says you need to sleep, even if I try to get up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. It's like, just kidding, you're sleeping in. You're like, oh, okay, you know what's best. Um, but just really sitting with like, okay, what feels right? What feels like the right time based on what I want to do? Do I want to go for a walk in the morning because I'm really trying to maybe put in my movement, knowing that I'm going to be maybe in front of my computer for several hours that day or the last couple days, or I see myself sitting for the next couple days because I'm studying something or diving deep into a project. Okay, movement's important. I want like sometimes it's a big movement of like, okay, I'm going to go for a walk for however long that is. That's an intention in itself. And then like throughout the day, I can break up my stuff and actually like, okay, I've been sitting for a while. Let me get up and move around, or let me do like a 10 minute, just like Google something on about yoga and do a 10 minute practice or whatever. But I'm literally sitting with myself the night before and going, okay, what feels right?
Hmm.
Like today, I was like, hey, you know what? I have this with you. I was like, I knew I wanted to get a walk in. I knew I wanted to get a shower in because I know it's going to make me feel good. Because let's be honest, showers don't always happen daily. And that's just being very honest about it. But like, what makes you feel good.
Hmm.
So it's like, hey, if having that moment with yourself in the morning, like, hey, I want my cup of coffee and that silence, if you have the opportunity. Sometimes I get it. We don't always have the opportunity for silence. I don't always have the opportunity for silence, but I've realized if I don't take time for myself in the morning in some fashion, that doesn't always look the same. Like the rest of my day, I end up feeling anxious or I feel like I'm everybody else that I come in contact with, and it's not necessarily their doing, but I feel like I'm giving so much to them and I never gave to myself. So I'm conditioning myself, and it is a practice. There is no perfect, and there's days where I'm like, I still feel like crap. But it's like I'm pour the whole saying, you pour into yourself before you pour into someone else. Like that's kind of what it is without even realizing that's what it is. Like is I notice the days, and that's something that I pay attention to and I've learned to pay attention to, and with the help of like just being in an embodiment program for an extended period of time is like you're just learning and pay attention to your body. If you're agitated, what's agitating you? Is it the person? Maybe it is, but why? Like, are you not setting boundaries? All these things. So it's like I'm paying attention to my world. I'm paying attention to how I'm feeling, what's coming up. Like, and it doesn't, don't get, it's not daunting. It can be sometimes. There's days where I'm like, I don't even want to ask myself a question. I'm checking out of my own self. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm just so done. But you get used to just like asking yourself questions of like, okay, how do I feel? And that's just kind of how I manage my energy with my stuff. It's like I have overarching priorities for the week, different things I want to look into, different things I want to put my time into. And then I get to decide each night what I feel right for the next day. Like, just kind of go through and like almost envision, like, okay, I'm going to wake up. I feel like this is probably what I want to do. Okay, and I probably want to transition to this. But when I actually do wake up that morning, I also get to check in myself. And I have a very specific, like, okay, I do just my own little breathing exercises in the morning. I listen to music. And then I have a devotion time and I read my Bible. And I was like, that's just my little practice that sets me up. And in that time, if I feel like I'm just really just not feeling it, and you learn after a period of time if you're avoiding something or if your body's just saying, I'm so tired, I'm so exhausted, I just need some me time. Or you know what, my brain just isn't into that task. Can I move it to somewhere else? The beauty is you have every right to. You get to decide. And that's kind of like the mental shift too, is like no one is saying you have to. Granted, we all have like goals. We're like, okay, if I don't set some sort of deadlines, I may never get this business up and going. I may never, study for that exam if I don't put the time in. You get to make that, and it's kind of for me it's been an interesting balance because I can justify to myself why I don't want to do something all day long if I really want to, but if I think about what it feels like to not actually accomplish something, and I'm like, but if I never get to do this, or how would I feel in 2, 3, 4 months if I'm still right here? So it's like that, and that's okay if it changes. Like right now, it might be like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna feel awful because I want to really get into this. I want to do this. I want to put the time in. But if something happens, life happens. There's a lot of things that we have no control over. Stuff happens. That's why you continuously recheck in with yourself, recheck in with your priorities, your life, your balance. What is going on right now? I've been helping out my mom with some health stuff that she's been going through, so I have to prioritize that in like almost underneath, right underneath myself. Myself comes first as much as possible, but that's something that's all like right there where it's like, okay, I know my time and effort also has to go towards helping her with her needs. So guess what? Like my season right now might look a little different where I don't give as much time to a certain avenue that I'm curious about.
Mm-hmm.
But can I still give a little bit of time? Can I listen to something on my walks? My walks change. Some days I'm like, I just need really upbeat music. Some days I'm like, hey, I want to listen to a podcast. Some days I want to listen to whatever that is I'm studying, like, and that's I've really learned because I've tried to be very like I don't want to say very rigid, but I've tried like the rigid aspect of like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna double stack my stuff and learn this while I'm doing this, da, da, da. And it's like that doesn't always work. And I want the person listening to know it doesn't always work. And that's okay if it doesn't work for you. There's
Mm-hmm.
times when it just feels right for me, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I feel okay listening to this module about whatever X, Y, and Z today while I'm walking. Other days I'm like today I was like, I just want to listen to some music. And I get to pick the music that's gonna make me feel good and just really also get me in the zone for what's coming up. I was like, I want to feel very like present in my body, and I don't want to be thinking about all these other business things or whatever that I have going on. How can I hone in my mind, my energy, my heart into what matters
Mm-hmm.
in this moment, whatever that is for yourself. So it's really, for me, it's just really been checking in and giving myself, people always say, oh, give yourself grace. Yes, it is that, but it's realizing that you have every right to decide and change. And the more you pay attention to yourself, and like, I remember people saying stuff like that when I first like kind of started getting to it. And I'm like, yeah, that's great and all. Literally, it's one of those things that just happens on a subconscious level. The more you do it, the more it starts coming up. You're like, oh, I recognize this. Oh, like it sounds ridiculous, but like, oh, I just want like that quick fix, whatever. Just tell me what to do, da da da. It doesn't happen like that. It's, it's literally just like that's why a lot of things are called a practice. Like you just practice it, and at some point you just start like it just clicks one day, and you're like, oh, I had no idea, and now I just get it. So just like doing it until as you feel that it's right for you. And that goes for anything, whether it's managing your energy, whether it's setting your task list or to-do list for your household, your business, your just personal like groceries, laundry, all that kind of stuff. It's just managing, like just checking with yourself. That's kind of like what I sum it up as like checking yourself. And you can set up, and I have at times kind of like try to condition myself of like, hey, ask yourself this or ask yourself that. A lot of it just comes really natural now where I'm just like, okay, I'm feeling agitated. Like, what happened? Oh, it's because X, Y, and Z, whatever. It's like I'm just noticing what's filling up, coming up for me inside my body if I'm tense or if and even like it's funny because I think now sometimes I can notice those uncomfortable feelings before I notice like the joy and the happy and stuff like that, or where it's like, oh, you know what? That I really did enjoy this. I really was excited about this, and like it really went well, da da da, like that. And I think it kind of goes, it reminds me of like when people like look at reviews and stuff, people are so eager to complain about something, but they're not typically as eager to give a praise, to compliment. It's the same thing with your body. You possibly can recognize something that's more negative before you recognize the positive of like, oh, you know what? I did do well on this. Or, hey, you know what? I had a great time. I'm glad I stepped out of my house today and went and visited friends or whatever it is. It's just learning yourself.
Yeah.
And that
And
takes
I
time and
think we
devotion.
don't give ourselves enough permission to do that. I think like especially, as women, it's like we have all these things that we have to do and prioritize, and we just have to do the things, but like some days it's okay to say that you don't want to. I've recently discovered that like I hate Mondays. Like Mondays, for some reason I wake up Mondays super anxious. It's just this weird feeling. And so I'm like, I could either continue to wake up on Mondays and feeling that way, and it like that's not a great way to start the week, especially a day that used to be my favorite. And so now I'm like, okay, now I'm intentional about what I do on Mondays. Like I go first thing is I like go on a hike in nature with friends that are gonna fuel my cup. And then I do the activities that make me feel good, or the ones that bring me joy, or the ones that get me excited for the week. And so that's like podcasting or going to lunch with a friend or things like that. So it's like I think we can choose where we go and what we
Yes.
do and who we hang out with. And I think that's the most important thing. I actually wrote down, like we get to choose how we feel joy. Like I talk about this all the time. Like we get so negative about we're busy, we're busy, we're busy, we're busy, we're busy. And I'm like, have you created a list of like what brings you joy? And if you're feeling some kind of way, or you're irritated about something, or you feel frustrated about it, like go to that list of things that bring you joy, whether that's like going for a walk or listening to like hip hop or lighting a candle and reading a book in the corner of your bedroom, like whatever it is that like
Yes.
when you're feeling like gross or in a weird space, like going back to that list and choosing joy.
And you know what's so funny you say that is there was a time and that I would be like, well, I don't even know what brings me joy because I'm thinking it has to be like this big, like, oh my gosh, some people
Mhm.
are just no. Some people are just like, oh, you know what? I can sit down and read a book. They just know that that brings them joy. Oh, I can go and do this arts and crafts and it lights me up. There was a season where I was just like, I have no idea. And it's
Mhm.
like, I want to remind the person listening that it's like, it's okay if you don't know. Then it's like, you know what? It's that blanket. You know what? Like the blanket, I have a blanket that I'm like, you know what? It's just something about having the blanket. When I travel, I take it with me because I'm like, it's a piece of home. It's a piece of comfort that I take with me that brings me joy. So it's like I start turning things into very little stuff. And I'm like, you know what? This makes me comfortable. And that's like, honestly, I used to have battles. Like I love traveling, but depending on the circumstance, sometimes traveling has not been all that fun for me. I turned it into learning lessons where I'm like, you know what? I may not have control over X, Y, and Z, but how can I bring comfort with me? Is it bringing my blanket? Is it setting my boundary of, hey, you know what? I have to either A, get up earlier to do my morning practice before expectations start at this time, or I get to speak my boundary of, hey, you know what? I'm not available until this time while on this trip, whatever. Like, it's still so important to have that, whatever makes you feel comfortable. Like I said, it could be as simple as a blanket, as a cup of tea, um, like you said, a song or whatever. So it's like, and really, it maybe explores, like, you know what? Turn on the music, and then you decide, oh, you know what? I really like the lyrics of the song. Wow, like it's kind of uplifting me. Save it to a favorites or whatever, and just be like, you know what? This is like something that just makes me feel joy,
Mhm.
you know, or it makes you, and it could be for any reason. It doesn't have to be like that it lifts your spirit, but maybe you just feel so connected to the song where you know what, that song is speaking exactly how I feel, and I feel heard. And
Mhm.
feeling heard sometimes brings joy, you know. But like you were saying, as women, we don't prioritize ourselves. There is a stigma that we're supposed to do all these things, and I'm not a mother, but I get the privilege of seeing those around me. I'm surrounded by a lot of mothers and what they choose to do and what they sacrifice at different times and how they sacrifice themselves. And it's like, it's such a beautiful thing that I haven't had the experience to witness or to. I'm not a mother, so I don't know. There's a lot of things I don't know and all that kind of stuff, but it's such a beautiful thing to be able to raise a child from even the outside where I'm like, wow, like that's such a blessing. But you are so important too.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things that like I think about, we get so used to we have to pay health insurance. We have to pay taxes, all that stuff. Like we just, yeah, we can gripe about it, but it's one of those things that just automatically comes out of your paycheck depending on like how you get paid. How would it be if we turned our own like thing, our own like going to retreats, our own, you know, every week we do this or once a month we do, that's something that is to fuel you up, and that just becomes a condition of a non-negotiable of, hey, you know what, this fuels me up, this actually is my version of healthcare, because maybe it's not recognized as society's healthcare. We have to put our own little like side money for that, but it's like if it's so important, it's equally as important. And I guarantee you like that's going to actually trickle into your actual physical health, where it's like you're maybe not going to end, I'm not a doctor, but maybe you're not going to end up in the hospital as early, like when we get older. Maybe you're not going to have these health conditions because you took the time. I had to learn to regulate my nervous system. And there's a time I'm just like, I don't even know what that means. And even now, I'm like, it just sounds so like, what are the tangible steps? Like, there is no tangible steps because that's a lot of what my issues were is like, my hormones were out of whack and it was my cortisol level, which no doctor tested. It wasn't until I was in an embodiment program and it was recommended, hey, have these different hormone levels tested. We can review them and go from there and see what would be good. But it's like there's so many things that we don't do. Like we put as women, we put everybody else first. Speaking as a woman and those that's someone who sees mothers, they put everybody else first. Oh, I have to do this. I have to do whatever. If you just gave yourself the smallest amount of time, and there's so many women, and I love them dearly, and they're my best friends, and it's just like, oh, but I have to do this, I have to do whatever. Tell your children no that your bathroom time is yours. They're not allowed in there while you're going to the bathroom. You know what I mean? Like, give yourself some sort of time, some sort of privacy. And as you set that boundary, you're also teaching them that, hey, taking care of their energy level, their mental health is so important. And they're going to be that much better. They're going to be not even better. They're going to be the best version of themselves learning these things from you. As kids, we learn from those around us. As people, as human beings, we learn from those around us. There's that saying where it's like, okay, if you surround yourself with millionaires, you're likely going to turn into a millionaire. Like that kind of whatever. Because you're now surrounding yourself with people, you're going to start absorbing their habits. So set the tone for your family, set the tone for yourself, set the tone for your friends, set the tone for yourself. And if you have, if you're that person that says, I don't have a family, I don't have, kids, I'm not in a relationship, I don't have anybody else to rely on, I have nobody else to answer to but myself, you still have to answer to yourself. So if you're not setting that as a habit, you're not creating that space where it's like, it's not a negative thing. Like, oh, I have to do this. It's like, I get to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I care so much about myself. I'm going to go have a spa day. I'm going to go get you know, my pedicure or whatever it is that makes you feel good. Like, I know for me, like, shower feels great. Like, when my hair is clean, I feel just so much
Or when you
better.
like put makeup on or you get dressed. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's just one of those things like you get to decide for you what it is and it can change from season to season. Like different seasons of my life, I'm like, all right, cool. Sometimes it's, going out with friends and actually having like a specific date and time. Like, hey, let's just us get together. Like, leave the kids at home, leave the husbands or the significant others at home, like whatever it is. Let's just go have our own time. And I think it's so important, like treating it just as important as like the societal like healthcare. This is your own version of it, where it's like if you take care of yourself in your own ways ahead of time there is a likelihood, again, not a doctor, that you're going to prolong your life. You're going to be so much healthier. You're going to be able to enjoy what you have right in front of you because you're not so stressed out. Like I've been in burnt out. I've been in all these things where it's like, okay, I'm just living my life for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But who am I?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you end up losing yourself. Like, okay, well, I don't know what I like. I don't know what to do. Like, I don't have time. The saying really is true. Like, if you don't make time, at times it's not going to happen.
From somebody who has gone through personal development, you obviously have been through it. I've been through it. I think a lot of it's either you've done it or you haven't done it. Because once you've done it, you're like in this like whole beautiful, spiritual, happy world about like setting goals and doing the hard things, and like you're just in a different mindset than somebody who hasn't. Because you've experienced that, what is your advice to the person that's still kind of stuck over there that hasn't made that leap? Like I definitely have like I'm so thankful I went down that journey because I wouldn't be where I am today, but I also know that you have to be ready for it. Like there's so many
Yes.
people in my life that I'm like, "Oh, you
Oh
need
my
to go to these
gosh.
retreats, you need to do the things,"
Yes.
but they're not ready for it.
Yes.
What is like your I guess advice or your experience that you could tell someone who's still stuck over here to take that chance to get through that journey?
So the one thing like that kind of as you were talking, I was like feeling into the answer. I was like, you know what? Like, what is that piece of advice? Because I also have friends where I'm like, they have the different things, they have the societal stuff, but they still have their own internal things where it's like they're not happy for whatever reason, whether it's external because of a relationship, whether it's internal, just self-worth and things like that, like the one that comes to mind for me is like you're worthy. You are a worthy human being. It doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter who's in your life. Like nothing outside of you, like your just body itself, like you as a person, you absolutely matter and you are worth actually doing it. And I've been in that, and I was thinking about this too. Like I've been in like because it kind of is like you haven't done it, and then to like okay, you've done it, you feel all the awesomeness, but there is that weird in between. Like it's more of like geared towards like you're now in it, but there's still that wishy-washiness of like, well, like it's still so hard, like da da da. Like I still struggle. Like again, I have to call things practices. It is not like I'm gonna do this and be perfect at it and I never have to do it again. There are times when I feel like I thought I healed from something, and lo and behold something else triggers it and I'm like, "Oh, there's a deeper layer here. I now have to dig into that to help release
It's
whatever
not like
is."
once you've done it, you're done and
Yeah.
you
Oh,
can
yeah,
just
it's
set it
never.
aside and be done. I mean, even my retreats, I'm like, yeah, I host retreats, but like I look forward to that experience more than anybody because like it's not even just hosting it, but it's like, what am I going to get out of it from my own journey?
Yeah. So I think it's a huge leap of faith. It really is. It's like, you know what? If you don't start and you don't try, and I would say that probably a lot of people, myself included, like you end up start dabbling because you're listening to like a podcast, you're listening to a book, a friend maybe talks about it. You don't know until you try it on. And the scary part, I think, for a lot of people, speaking from my own personal experience and witnessing others, is a lot of people like, oh my gosh, it costs money. Yes, things cost money,
Mm.
but it's how you view it. What do you value? You know, like, do you value your health? Do you honestly want to try and see how it turns out? Like, do you value the time? Because I can tell you there's a lot of things that even vacations, all that stuff. We're like, oh my gosh, it's really so much fun. I've had challenges where I'm like, okay, I can choose to look at this as a negative something and then look back on the experience and be like, oh my God, it was the worst thing ever. Or I can say, you know what, that was challenging. Here's a learning lesson from this. And now I'm going to actually like focus on the really good moments I had. So same thing happens with your healing journey of like, you know what, you don't know till you try. Is it going to cost money? Absolutely. Everything costs money. You would be like, oh, it's free. It's not free because it costs your time. It costs your energy. And cost is can be a negative word. So it's really turning your mindset around on the words you're using. Like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be this instead of I know I get to do this. I get to explore myself. I get to learn who I am again. I get to, and it's scary because you're like, okay, well, I don't know who I am. So there's a negative connotation that kind of comes up, but it's like you end up getting to find with yourself of what do I value?
Mhm.
Am I worth it? Do I really want to continue down this route? Is there something I can do? There is. It may cost you money, it may cost you time, it may cost you energy, but the other side or the beauty of it, not even the other side, because sometimes it's an ongoing thing, is there's so much you can gain from it of just learning yourself where you end up finding your voice again. You find your confidence. You find your own empowerment where you realize in a way you're like I don't care what others think. I'm going to set this boundary. I'm going to say no, or I'm going to be firm on X, Y, and Z because I know it's right for me. It's what feels aligned for me. It's what I value. You're not answering to other people. You're answering to yourself, and it's one of those things where you get to the end of your life. Okay, so do you want to be jumping for joy that you at least tried and realized, hey, I tried this? Again, you can try 10 different things and one or two actually might resonate with you. And even still, sometimes they don't always work right away the first time. You end up plant a seed, like you said, until you're ready. You have to be ready. And it's almost on a subconscious level. So you just have to get to a point where you're open-minded. We're like, you know what? Is this something I'm willing to try? Is this something that I'm curious about? Could I see myself doing that or exploring that? Like just start asking yourself questions and become curious. I think that's the biggest thing is become curious. When you start become curious, you subconsciously open those doors. You open that mindset to what's coming next, to what the other options are, to if this really feels aligned for you right now, to how do I get to set time aside for myself to invest in this situation, to ask myself these questions, So it's like figuring out a way, and that sounds so vague sometimes, but it's literally just asking yourself questions of without the negative, like being very just like open-minded of like, okay, do I value this? What does this mean to me? What would it look like? And play out the scenarios sometimes. And yeah, you can play out the negative scenarios, you can play out the positive scenarios, and then you get to decide, okay, well, what do I want to do? If I continue to live the life I'm on, which is likely the one that says, no, I can't, I don't have time for this. No, I don't have the money for this. Then that saying of you do the same thing, you're going to get the same thing versus what if I tried something different? I can tell you right now, I didn't even know what to expect. I went into my embodiment program that I was in with one expectation, and what I got from it was a million times different.
Mm-hmm.
Not in a bad way. It's just there's so much more to it that I never could even pinpoint it to be like, oh, that was going to come from this. You don't know until you start. And then again, my whole philosophy in life is like as long as I keep moving, I can move forward, I can move backwards, I can move to the right, to the left, diagonal. That allows doors to open, close, windows to shut, all these things for opportunities. But if I don't move, nothing there's I won't even know that door is open. I won't even know that door is shut to now pivot and guide towards a different direction if I don't move. And it's okay to go backwards because sometimes it also helps us go even further forwards, you know?
So good. I feel like we should just leave it there because that is like such a good ending point. I do want to say though, the word curiosity has come up in so many conversations lately about everything. And so it just seems to be like the word of the year for me, or at
Yeah.
least that's like been talked about in so much. But what is next for you? Like you are, I know you're dabbling in so many different things, but if your heart could tell you, like if you had to say right now, where are you going? Like what are you passionate about now? And like what is to come for Stephanie?
Um, ooh. I have to remember like what's within my tangible like control because there's always big pillars where I'm like, yes, I want the house, I want the relationship, I want all of the, I want the career, I want all this, whatever. But in a tangible speaking thing, right now, like I think I'm excited to venture into helping other entrepreneurs. I said I've always had a passion for business. It's always been on my heart. And I'm literally toying with ideas and I'm starting in a sense where it's like, okay, it's classified as virtual assistant, but it's so much more.
Hmm.
Like I said,
Almost
I
like you
can't
could be like a life coach for them or an empowerment coach.
and that's funny you say that because that's exactly where I feel like my heart is pulling me. It's like it may start tangibly in like the back end. I'm helping art-centered businesses because that's what really drives me is like I thrive when I feel like someone's heart is in it. They're caring for themselves. Their business is caring for others. They're really helping the person develop in some sort of deeper way. It's not just, and don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with learning a new, like just tangible skill. Like, okay, cool, I can learn this computer skill, whatever. That's fine. It's like the message and the mission behind what someone's doing. Um, like I said had the privilege to be in a corporate world business. I've had the privilege to work with other friends who are starting businesses and like stuff just comes out and I don't try and I don't say that like in any other way than just in a humble way. Like stuff like I almost word vomit and sometimes I have to go like, oh wait a second, hold on, like let me make sure that comes off in the right way because I don't want to crush someone's like hopes and dreams, but it's more of like have a conversation. Hey, have you tried this? Have you tried that? So it's a lot of just like business consulting, but like I I don't ever see myself as like the front end person, but I see myself as like the driving force that like pushes and like supports in the backside of things. Um, like that quiet little like hermit that's like doing something. I'm like, haha, like I'm helping like doing all these things. It's like I don't know, I love connections. I love deep, genuine connections with people. So I know that there's something brewing in there with like life coaching, business coaching,
Because
just really
sometimes,
like
like as an entrepreneur, where we like know all the things, and I've worked with a lot who just need that extra push and that extra cheerleader and that extra like, hey, bad day, shake it off. Like, let's move forward. And just like I used to call it like a hype girl.
yeah.
I'm like, I'm your hype girl. I'm just trying to like move you forward. But I think so many entrepreneurs need that
Yes. Like,
like
and
boost of confidence, but then also like reality check, like you need to like pull yourself together and like move it forward, type of thing. So I
yeah,
could
because
see you
there's,
doing a lot of that work.
oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Because I love getting that feedback too, because sometimes other people can see things
Yeah.
that you don't always see in yourself.
Yeah.
So I like, really appreciate that feedback. That's beautiful because I feel like that's where my heart is at. Is like I want to support in some way, and it's not just tangible tasks. It's that mental side. It's that like, hey, I'm struggling, whatever. Okay, cool. Let's look at what do you have on your plate? How do you want to get there? Here's some different ways. Or it's like sometimes you just need that person to bounce an idea off of, or say, hey, I have all of this. I need someone from the outside to help me get where I think I'm going and to talk through stuff. Like I said, I think there's just something in my journey that's taken my mental health, my like healing journey along with my business interest. It's always been there, and like something beautiful is brewing where I'm like, I know something is coming. And I would love to say that it is some sort of coaching in that sense. Um, so I'm always open to like ideas, and I'm open to people that are just like, hey, like
This is
let's
where we see
connect.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just kind of like where I'm at. I'm excited about just seeing what happens, where it goes. I have a few people that I am working with right now that I already see where it's going, and I'm just so excited because I'm just like, okay, yes, like something is coming, and I know as I continue to like move forward, like the bigger picture is going to unfold. Where it's like I have these visions where I'm like, I can see stuff coming, I can see this grand thing, and I'm like, okay, I'm right here right now. I think this could be where this bigger picture is playing out. So
I
we'll
love it.
see.
What, and tell the listeners too a little bit about your podcast and like where they can find you and listen to you and all the things.
Yes. Um, so my podcast is called Broken and Enough, and for me, the whole concept is um, changing and building a perspective that serves you best. Something I like to say is it's not better, it's not worse, because then we look back on ourselves and we have judgment of, oh my gosh, this version of myself, I'm better now because this version of myself, da da da. Well, guess what? Now you're saying a version of you was not good enough. We weren't up to par or whatever. Guess what? That version of you is still a part of you, but you're in a different season. So it's like changing that perspective, building that perspective where it's like, okay, I can look at something and go, I can look at it this way, A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. Which of those perspectives is going to serve me? And also deciding like, okay, sometimes it's taking an extra layer back, or it's like, hey, my past is fogging up my lens where I'm looking at something with a certain tone or a certain expectation. It's like, well, that comes from my past, and sometimes that's not always good. So it's really just creating that healthy perspective that serves so that we can be that individual that we so deeply desire to be, that we can be that entrepreneur, that we can be that mother, that father, that family member, whoever it is, like that individual that we desire to be. A lot of that coming from my experience comes with perspective, how I looked at myself. And I know there's such a big shift that's happened in myself and in others where it's like, oh, if we just and it's not just trying on like, oh my gosh, think positive. Because guess what? Some situations there is like you can't there's no positive. But what I have learned is there is a learning lesson that comes from a challenge or a learning lesson that comes from a negative. And that's what I get to take from it. Not just, oh, think positive, everything's pretty, whatever. Because guess what? Sometimes when you're in the deep thick of it, depending on if it's an external situation or an internal mental situation, you can't see that.
Hmm.
But you get to decide and say, you know what, is there something else that I can take from this? Is there a learning lesson? Is there a boundary? There's all these things that you can take from it and look at it differently and like, okay, what's going to help propel me into that version of myself that I want to be?
Hmm.
Because if I hold on to this other one that I initially have that feels very heavy and very negative, I'm sitting exactly where I'm sitting. I'm not going anywhere. But can
Hmm.
I look at something different and go, this is how I can either A, never let this happen again, B, when the situation comes up, how I can handle it. So there's a lot of different things that we can look at things in a multitude of ways, and also realizing the lens that we already have. Something I like to say too is like you could have twins. The most scientific way to test things is twins or whatever, where it's like, okay, they're relatively the most similar, but they're still gonna have their own lens. They're still gonna have their own perspective.
Hmm.
So it's like everybody has their own perspective, and I learned that even in the communication. I might be like describing something to you, but your brain is thinking something else because of your life situation. So it's really having that dynamic communication and that conversation and that clarification of like, hey, oh, that's what you mean. Okay, cool. I just took something you said in a whole different way because of something else that I was believing from my past. So perspective plays so big in every part of our life. I just think there's so much value in it, and we don't talk about mental health enough sometimes, or we feel very shameful about talking about it, and it's what ends up making us feel like we're not enough, we're broken, there's something wrong with us. Well, there isn't anything wrong with us. Maybe our perspective was broken. Maybe the way we grew up, that perspective was broken. What we learned, what we decided to try on one day and didn't even know subconsciously, like that lens is broken. Okay, so let's put a new lens on there. Let's find a different lens that's going to serve you best in the season you're in. And as you continue to grow in the multitude of seasons that we constantly have that overlap because nothing's linear, like there are so many different lenses that you get to try on and you get to put there and go, hey, what color lens, what lens do I get to wear today that's going to actually serve me best?
Hmm. Mm. So good. So needed this conversation today.
Hmm.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad that our paths have crossed and that we've got a
Yes.
collab on our own podcast. And I can't wait to see where your business takes you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'll also provide you with the different links and stuff so you can add them into the show notes so everybody can just connect.
Connect. Awesome. Well, thank you. Have
Yes.
a wonderful Friday. We're
Thank
recording this
you.
on a Friday, but thank you again for being here.
Of course. Thank you.